They called her the blonde with class. She was the face of Versace, Dior, Chanel, a supermodel who made 10,000 pounds a day and had her own Hasbro doll. But on October 31st, 2001, live on French television, Karen Mulder shattered the illusion. Through tears, she named names: princes, politicians, executives, accusing the fashion elite of rape and abuse. Within minutes, her mic was cut. Within hours, the tape was destroyed. Within days, she was locked in a psychiatric clinic, paid for by one of the very men she'd accused. But to understand what happened in that studio, to understand how one of the most beautiful women in the world could risk everything in a single broadcast, we need to go back. Back to when Karen Mulder was fashion's golden girl. Back to when everyone called her the blonde with class. Back to when she was making 10,000 pounds a day and slowly dying inside. Photographers lined up to shoot her. Designers fought over her. By 1995, she even had her own Hasbro doll. She was everywhere. Vogue covers. French, Italian, German. Victoria's Secret's first Dutch angel. The face of Nivea. Campaigns for Guess that defined an entire decade. At her peak, Karen was pulling in $10,000 a day. Adjusted for inflation, that's $20,000 per day. Her best friend was Carla Bruni, the woman who would later become the First Lady of France. The two were inseparable, nicknamed the mischievous duo of the runway. There's footage of them backstage, laughing, glowing, untouchable, like they owned the world, and for a while they did. But here's the thing most people missed. In 1995, at the very height of her fame, a journalist asked Karen a simple question: "What's your favorite food?" Her answer was, "I don't like food." Think about that. One of the most desired women on earth, and she couldn't even pretend to enjoy the thing that keeps us alive. And nobody wanted to dig deeper. Nobody wanted to know why the girl who had everything hated the most basic joy of living. That same year, Karen bought a chateau in France. Most supermodels use their money for yachts, cars, or parties. Karen created a program where children could come and spend summers at a supermodel's castle. She never advertised it, never used it as a PR stunt. She just quietly gave these children a piece of beauty, in a world that had already given her so much beauty and so much pain. Because the fashion world of the 90s was another planet entirely. Cocaine was passed around like champagne. Photographers strutted with god complexes, agents wielded more power than CEOs, and models were products. And Karen never complained. She showed up, transformed into whatever vision they demanded, and collected her checks. Then she went home to her fiancé, Jean-Yves Lefeur, a real estate developer who helped manage her business ventures. Together, they created that doll line, produced a CDROM of beauty tips, and began building an empire that extended beyond the runway. Except she wasn't safe. None of them were. Karen was just particularly good at hiding it. There's a photo of her from a 1996 Versace show. She's backstage in full glam, surrounded by the chaos of stylists and assistants, but if you look closely, you can see it. The emptiness that comes from being looked at but never seen, touched but never held, paid but never valued. By 1997, she had had enough. At just 29, Karen walked away from the runways. She started writing songs. She took vocal lessons from Marianne Faithfull, Mick Jagger's ex. Even Karen's retirement was impossibly glamorous. Her model friends thought she'd lost her mind. You don't walk away from $10,000 a day. You don't leave when you're still at the top. But Karen knew something they didn't. She knew that staying would kill her. And for 4 years, she stayed gone. Then came the invitation. Tout le monde en parle, the biggest talk show in France. The producers wanted Karen to talk about her music career. Her 2002 single had just charted. This was supposed to be her soft, carefully controlled return to public life. The studio was packed. Karen showed up looking polished and composed, but something was wrong. The other guests saw it. The host, Thierry Ardisson, noticed it too. She was fidgeting and sweating under the lights. And then it happened. When they asked about her music, about her life after modeling, Karen broke. "I was raped." The words came out like they'd been trapped in her throat for years. The host tried to steer her away, to laugh it off, to move on. But Karen wasn't finished. By Gerald Marie, by executives at Elite, by police officers who were supposed to protect me, by politicians, by members of royal families. She was named Prince Albert of Monaco. She spoke of being hypnotized, of being sold, of being hollowed out from the inside. The producers were in full-blown panic. This was live television. France's sweetheart supermodel was detonating her own industry in real time. To some, it looked like a complete psychotic break. But that footage is gone. The master tape was destroyed. What remains are the memories from those who saw it live. She told stories of reporting rapes to her agency and watching the men simply get transferred. She said girls were offered to clients like party favors. She described a world where no wasn't a word models were allowed to say. Thierry Ardisson later told the press that Karen was in a disturbed psychological state, that her claims were delirious. He said destroying the tape was an act of kindness. But think about that. If she were truly delusional, why erase the evidence? Within hours, the French media had its headline, Supermodels Breakdown. The focus wasn't on what Karen said, but on how crazy she must be to say it. Her sister Saskia got a call. Something's wrong with Karen. By November 2nd, she was in Paris. Depending on who you believe, Karen was either convinced by her family to seek help or forcibly taken. What's certain is that she ended up in Villa Montsouris, a high-end psychiatric clinic in Paris, where she would stay for over 3 months, cut off from the outside world. And who paid for it? Gerald Marie, head of Elite Paris. Officially, it was framed as generosity. In reality, the accused became her benefactor. Doctors, funded by him, labeled her testimony as symptoms of illness. Prosecutors did open an inquiry, but with Karen locked away and heavily medicated, her voice was easy to dismiss. Even her parents framed her troubles as cocaine, eating disorders, and the pressures of fashion. Karen denied ever being an addict. But who believes the woman locked in the asylum? Her friends stayed silent. They knew what happened to women who talked. Even Carla Bruni kept her distance. Then, 2 weeks into her stay, something unthinkable. Karen wrote a letter to Prince Albert of Monaco. A handwritten apology, full of regret. She called her accusations a cry for help. She begged forgiveness. She retracted it all. Albert forgave her, of course. The crazy woman had apologized. Order restored. Her parents came, urging her to stop talking, stop embarrassing the family. By January 2002, she was released. She gave a careful interview at the Paris match, mentioned childhood trauma, said she'd gone too far, regretted the harm caused. Notice what she didn't say. She never said it wasn't true. Gerald Marie kept running Elite Paris. Prince Albert kept being a prince. The fashion world kept recruiting teenage girls. And Karen Mulder went home to her apartment, alone. The woman who once earned £10,000 a day was now living off savings. No agency would sign her. No magazine would risk featuring fashion's most famous breakdown. She tried music. Released a single, I Am What I Am. It actually charted at number 13 in France. A dance anthem about self-acceptance. Her ex-fiancé, Jean-Yves Le Fur, still called from time to time. He'd known her before the fame. He knew she wasn't crazy, but knowing and acting are two different things. As 2002 dragged on, Karen withdrew further. She stopped answering the phone, stopped opening the door. The message from the world had been clear. Beautiful women who talk too much get locked away. And Karen had learned the lesson. For Karen, December 2002 was darker than most. A year had passed since her TV confession. On the night of December 10th, she made a choice. The pills weren't hard to find. Sleeping medication, likely from her time at Montsouris. The very drugs meant to help her became her way out. She swallowed them all. What goes through someone's mind at that moment? When you've been one of the most photographed women on earth, and now you're alone on your bathroom floor, waiting to vanish? Karen left no note. Maybe she felt she'd already said everything, but even then, she couldn't completely disappear. Jean-Yves had been trying to reach her. When she didn't answer, he got worried. He still had a key. He let himself in, found her unconscious, and called an ambulance. He rode with her to the American hospital in Neuilly, holding the hand of the woman who once held the fashion world in hers. She slipped into a coma. Doctors weren't sure she'd make it. But she survived. The hospital kept her for observation. Psychiatrists evaluated her again. The diagnosis didn't change. Severe depression, the fashion world's favorite label for women who refused to stay silent. Her parents flew in again. How could she do this to the family? What would people think? But Karen wasn't thinking about reputation anymore. She was thinking about the fact that she had tried to die and failed. That even death, it seemed, had rejected her. 2003 crawled in with rehab, therapy, pills, and the daily grind of just staying alive. She tried music again, poured herself into it, and released an album in 2004. But how do you promote songs when every microphone shoved in your face comes with one question? Tell us about your breakdown? The music was drowned out by the noise of her past. Paparazzi would sometimes catch her at a cafe, sitting quietly with a coffee, and even that would become a headline. Troubled ex-supermodel spotted looking lost. She had become a ghost, haunting the very streets where she once reigned. Then in 2006 came her daughter, Anna. For the first time in years, Karen had something untouched by scandal or survival. A year later, in 2007, Dior wanted a taste of its golden past. They called the supermodels back. Naomi, Linda, Helena, and yes, Karen. For one night, she was back under the lights, striding the runway like time had folded in on itself. The crowd went wild. For 3 minutes, she was Karen Mulder again, but it didn't last. When the applause faded, she went home, back to being a single mother in a quiet apartment. 2009 hit hard. She was arrested after allegedly threatening her plastic surgeon. The story that leaked was devastating. When police asked why, her words cut like glass. "I can no longer bear the sight of my face in the mirror at night." That was her reality. Unable to look at herself. Then 2017 changed everything. The Weinstein scandal erupted, and suddenly the world was listening. Suddenly men were being named and shamed. Suddenly women who spoke weren't crazy anymore. And quietly, in fashion circles, models started talking too. By 2021, the dam burst. Multiple women came forward, accusing Gerald Marie. Their stories were chillingly consistent. Teenage girls, exploitation, rape, silence enforced by power. French prosecutors opened a full investigation. 11 women filed complaints. And this time, Karen was asked to speak in a private room to investigators who might finally be ready to hear the truth. Gerald Marie denies it all, of course, just like he did in 2001. But now his words sound flimsy. There are too many voices, too many women. The old machine can't silence them all. And Karen is 54 now. She lives quietly with her daughter. She doesn't chase interviews. She doesn't need to. The words she spoke 20 years ago are finally echoing back, louder than ever.